Okay, so what I want to say is thank you all for supporting. Thank you all for liking, subscribing. Again, like I said, the numbers are low, but I appreciate it all. For those, it's almost like I say, go where you're appreciated, not tolerated. I am just another man. I do podcasts, I do music. For those of you who don't know, I'm a creator. I've believed that what I bring to the table in this podcast space, or just even in the space of entertainment, I feel like I bring a lot of creativity, a lot of different aspects. And also, one thing that I learned just doing things on my own is that it's definitely possible, but it's not always the best thing. Because when you're a creator, you want to possibly, you know, put out the best quality and the best content. Me, I don't really care at this point as far as about being, number one. I mean, it'd be great if I can, reach such heights, and I still believe that one day that I will reach those heights. However, at the same time, I really just want to give my expert opinion, my insights, and my own creativity and aspirations on here on the mic, on the episodes, and even just when I'm doing music. I can't sing my R&B project out on DSPs. I write my rhymes, my rap project all on DSPs. I got some more content that I'm going to be releasing soon. So that's one thing that I do want to point out. Today, I really didn't want much. There's a lot of things that I could talk about, a lot of things that I rather not talk about, and a lot of things that I will, you know, talk about at a later time. However, I want to first say I know I'm not the only one who feels like we shouldn't be paying taxes, but it's just like, hey, maybe a little bit more research need to be required because I understand that even in America, we have, partnerships with different companies that is not American. We have deals with, different places that's not in America. And I understand, taxes, we got to pay taxes to, you know, travel. We got to pay taxes to eat. We got to pay taxes to sleep. It's almost like, you're paying to be alive. And that's one of the things that I'm kind of like, I get it. Nobody asked to be here. So how can we capitalize on this? And honestly, I really want to mention that the government isn't always to blame. You would think because of how things go, like when things aren't benefiting you, it's the government's because they opened up these doors and they allowed so many things to happen that they knew about and nothing was done. But what I want to say is it takes two to tango. And it's almost kind of like when you have 7-Elevens on every corner, when you have a church on every corner, when you have a liquor store on every corner, depending on where you are in America, um, you still have to make that choice. And I understand proximity is, can be a factor, and accessibility can be a factor. And one thing that I learned, especially spending time in DC, growing up, going back and forth there, and then even in my adulthood, moving back and forth from there, it's like, man, yeah, there's a lot of liquor stores, and it says liquor. It's not VABC. It's not alcohol beverage control. So it's like, hey, I don't know how many bottles of liquor a person can buy at a time, but it's almost kind of like, we make these choices. Just like how people make the choice to get up and go to work, just like how people make choices to get out and go to the club, just how people go make a choice and get out and go to the store. We make these choices. And again, it's like, for people like me, my color, my melanin, my culture, it's like, hey, this is, we can only go to what we see. A lot of people don't have access to cars. A lot of people don't have access to public transportation. There's people that out here that don't even have televisions, so they have to they go to buy to what they see and what's available. And I understand that. However, at the same time, there has to come to a point where we have to, you know, make a decision as far as, hey, how do we better ourselves? And of course, everything is always going to be like, hey, this is something for me, and this is something not for me. And I just always just think about certain things like that when I'm listening to music. Sure, a lot of the negative music could be great. It's very entertaining. It's not like I'm gonna sit there and do it. I'm not gonna be influenced to do anything. But at the same time, you should constantly, put something in your mind. Because when you're an artist, you do create. You paint a picture. Whether you're a painter, whether you're a drawer, whether you're a designer, whether you're a musician, it's all art. You're supposed to paint these pictures, and you're supposed to let the consumer, feel that art and that masterpiece and that piece of work that you're presenting. So I have to, again, things I've subconsciously sometimes embraced, but it's like, we have to at some point take a stand, allow ourselves to really think, take some time to think. Even, now, I have gotten better. I'm not there yet, but I've gotten better at when I wake up. First thing I do, get my phone, go to my devotions. Then after my devotions, I go to my plan. And if you don't have the Bible app, please get the Bible app. The Bible app is a great app to use for all the believers and all the curious to search here. But the Bible app's great. And even when some people might say, you shouldn't pick up the phone, I mean, I got a Bible too, but I mean, hey, it's just a start. At some point I will try to, you know, be the, get my physical Bible and read the scriptures, but because everything's on my phone and it's all accessible, that's, what I have. Even with me being a parent. So there's a lot of things, that we have to make a choice in. Just like I'll say this here, that, I have made a tough decision, but I had to do it. I'm not seeking to date anyone right now because of my desires versus, what's going on. My desires is, hey, I want have a wife, a family, and I want to be able to provide and take care of them. And in my current position right now, I'm unable to do that. And even though I do feel like, you can't, buy love, love can't, you know, doesn't pay the bills. So it's like, well, I have to make a decision because the type of man that I am, it does require me to spend money, and I can't spend anything that I don't have. And I have to focus on getting myself in a position to where where I don't have to depend on too many people, depend on things, which I still feel like, hey, we all need each other to maintain and to survive. And life is more than just surviving, but a lot of people do that. But I'm trying to persevere. I'm trying to overcome. I'm trying to surpass the statistics. But that's a whole different thing. Also, we have Some other news, WrestleMania is going to be coming up next week. It is on Easter Sunday, Good Friday, which I have another project. Praise God, dropping on all DSPs. If y'all want to listen to it now, y'all can sit there and go to Audio Mac. But that's pretty much all we have going on. But like I said, we have to take a little bit more responsibility in the decisions that we make. Even for myself, right now, and I'm door dashing and I'm, just becoming, trying to, get my entrepreneur badge, just trying to focus on my creativity. It gets a little tiring sometimes, especially, when you're driving all day just to, make a certain amount of money. And then you miss opportunities and spending with, other things, which I don't care too much about that. I just care about making sure that my son has time with me. He is on spring break. But also, as I reposition myself as far as entrepreneur, independent contractor, and all those things, I just also want to encourage everybody who's listening is to just always remember that, do what's in your heart, follow your heart. Your heart can't be deceitful above all things else. But what I will say first is always ask God and just pray to God. I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody should work for themselves. I'm not going to sit here and say that, everybody has the capability of being, independent and entrepreneur. But at the same time, I do want to encourage that everybody has the right to have a life that they want. And whatever that is, just keep on trying and stuff. If you have the village there to stand on, then you'll be in good hands. You will still struggle, you will still go through hard times, but God is the way. For as God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. And I stand on that, and I believe that, and I trust that, and I do know that everybody's going to heaven. If you don't believe me, then open your Bible. And also, before I go, because like I said, this episode was going to be brief, I just wanted to make an announcement again, is that, I am on all streaming platforms. I do podcasts, I do music, I'll have, beats, I'll have vocals now. Shout out to Sono app, who had helped me bring my recent projects. I write my rhymes and I can sing to life with AI. There's some good and bad in AI, but I'm going to stand on the good side with that. Hey, I can't sing. I'm better at writing than I am, performing. So I'm going to present all my work that I've written over the years, over my 20 years of creating and forming, some type of storyline, some type of, picture there. So make sure y'all follow me on all the apps, Twitter X or Twix, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I'm even on Reddit. But as always, I just want to keep the door open, keep the door, safe for anybody who has any suggestions, requests, questions. Just feel free to leave a comment or email me. All the information is provided above. But y'all stay safe, stay prosperous, productive, and positive. This is Blair, your Care Bear, and I'm out. Y'all stay safe.